specific data we need upon which to indicate who's won races. Sometimes you can do it right after the polls close in not very close races, and there'll be presumably some of those coming up at 9 o'clock. So we're watching for the 9 o'clock hour to roll around, and we'll take a look at the states where we can at least make some calls. So here we come. 9 o'clock is upon us. So let's look at the states where we can call. You see raw vote on the Allen race at the bottom of the screen. Here we go. This is Ben Nelson. This is a Democrat hold in Nebraska, which is no surprise, no switch. Minnesota Senate. This is a race where the Republicans thought for a long time they had a chance. Mark Kennedy there, but the Democratic candidate, was it Amy Klobuchar? Is that her name? Yeah. Has been favored to win on almost all cards of late and was certainly expected to do so. New York Senate, no surprise there. Hillary Clinton, overwhelming favorite to win. Huge lead in the polls. She's won. In Michigan, what is this? Texas Senate. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see that very well. Kay Bailey Hutchison, overwhelmingly favored to win and has done so. In fact, she was so overwhelmingly favored that some Republicans were mad at her for not donating more of her campaign money, which was felt she didn't really need, to other Republican candidates who they thought could use it more than she did. Now, North Dakota U.S. Senate, this is Kent Conrad. He's been a senior member on the Budget Committee and well known to those who cover Washington. Was not thought to be in any trouble, and he wins re-election. New Mexico, Jeff Bingaman, been around a long time, was overwhelmingly favored to win. He has won. In Wyoming, the Senate race there. This is is no surprise that Craig Thomas, who is a conservative, as you might imagine, from the state of Wyoming, was going to be reelected. He didn't have a close race, and as you can see, he's won it. Here's Wisconsin. Herb Kohl. He was not in trouble. He's won. We wish we had the ability to tell you. The Missouri, now this is one, of course, we're all dying to know about. Only a small fraction of precincts are in even as we speak. The polls have been closed there for a while, and the race is way too close to call. This will be a late one, we fear. And in Tennessee, it's a somewhat similar situation. 10% of the polls are closed. We're not trusting our exit poll sample there, and although Bob Corker appears to have a sizable lead, as only a fraction of the vote is in, and that could still go either way. Connecticut Senate, this is a similar situation. Ned Lamont has been well behind running against Joe Lieberman, who is an incumbent Democrat running as an independent. The Republican Schlesinger has not been a factor in the race. As you can see at 10%, he apparently still is not, but we're not able to make a call there and may not be able to for some time. Similar situation in the state of Virginia. We'd love to be able to tell you something about how that's going to come out. 65% of the precincts are in, but we still can't make a call. Allen is leading by, 16,000 votes. That's not enough in a state of that size to make a call. And across the Potomac River in Maryland, we have very little in there, and the Lieutenant Governor Michael Steele, and still too close to call in his race with the Congressman Ben Cardin. Chafee, White House, close race, got very close at the end. White House was thought to have a lead. They are almost indistinguishable on the issues. This is a state in which it said you're an endangered species if you got an R by your name, and Chafee did have an R by his name, and he has been endangered, although he was thought to be making a late surge. Sometimes late surges peter out and don't amount to much. Sometimes they end up being the momentum that carries into Election Day. In the state of Rhode Island, we don't yet know which. We wish we did, but we don't. So we'll ask you to bear with us, folks, as we go through this long list of. Now we got polls closed in a whole bunch of states now. Bill, let's go back to that board you have there, the what we call the power play board, and just review once again. We've seen two Democratic pickups in the Senate, Ohio and Pennsylvania. Neither of them a surprise. Everything else that's out there is still too close to call. Out of that group on the right, the Democrats would need to gain a net of 4 more, and if they lose Maryland, which is in the realm of possibility, they'd need to win 5 out of 6. So they still have some work to do in the Senate. Senator Schumer, you saw exuberant earlier at how well it's going so far, but nonetheless, a lot is still out there. We're not going to know for a while.
Right, and we really won't know for a while. Virginia looks very close on the real vote. I'm sure we won't call that till we get another, huge chunk of vote in. Missouri, we have almost no vote yet, and that one looks close. Rhode Island just closed, and Montana doesn't close till 10 o'clock, and it looks very likely that control of the Senate could well hinge on Montana. So even without surprises in Maryland, Arizona, or even if Corker hangs on to Tennessee, we'll be waiting, I think, on Montana and Missouri probably pretty late into the evening.
Well, it's interesting to get the sense. We got some of it from Senator Schumer there with Senator Reid. Democratic National Chairman Howard Dean is out and has been doing some interviews, and my colleague Chris Wallace is in touch with him now and in a position to talk to him. Chris.
Thank you, Britt. We do want to bring in the former governor of Vermont and the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Governor Dean. Governor Dean, good evening to you, sir.
Chris, thanks for having me on.
As you've seen, we have called so far 2 pickups in the Senate, Ohio and Pennsylvania, Democratic pickups of Republican seats. We have so far 1 pickup of a House seat in Indiana. Are you seeing more gains than that?
No, we're being very conservative, if I may say so, on a conservative station, and very careful because, as your commentators had said, everybody's been burned by exit polls before. We're optimistic because the turnout is so big, and when 2/3 of the American people want to go in a different direction, that's a good thing for the country, and it's also a good thing for the party out of power that offers a different direction. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be a late night, and it could come down to Montana or Missouri.
Let me ask you about, because if it is a Democratic victory, people are going to be wondering what it's a victory for. Some people are saying it's an ideological victory. On the other hand, a number of your candidates, for instance, Bob Casey, the Senate, apparently victorious Senate candidate in Pennsylvania, quite a moderate for a Democrat. Is this a party victory or an ideological victory?
I think it's a victory for a new direction, to be honest with you. I don't think it's, part of it's about the party, but I think that what's happened over the last few years is that the Republicans have lost touch with the American people. The Iraq is, of course, a big issue. Corruption, it turns out, is a huge issue today in the exit polls. It's an issue that we've been harping on for a while. And there's just been an awful lot of it. There's, I think, 4 or 5 Republican congressmen that had to resign, including the majority leader. And the other, of course, issue is the economy. It was an issue that was very frustrating to the president because the corporate earnings are up, the Dow Jones is up. But that's fine for the top 20%. The president's tax cuts were aimed at the top 20%. The rest of the 80% have got some real worries about the economy. The Republicans have cut the ways that middle class and working class kids get to college. Well, people know that that's the ticket to get out of their economic situation. So I think those are the 3 real pillars: Iraq, economy, and the corruption issue.
But let me ask you, because you say it's a mandate or a vote for a new direction. That obviously is a pretty broad theme. When you say in the economic area, is that a mandate to raise taxes on the rich? In Iraq, is it a mandate for a quicker pullout from Iraq?
Well, I think the answer to your first question is probably not a mandate to raise taxes on the rich. I think it's a mandate to make middle class, to create tax fairness for middle class people. The upper folks have gotten a big tax break, but middle class people haven't gotten anything. In fact, they've had some programs that they really rely on cut. That's problem number 1. In Iraq, I do think it's a mandate to do something different in Iraq. The president made a big deal of staying the course, but that's not what people want to do. People want to get out of Iraq. They actually want to do what most Democrats want to do. No Democrats are going to rush for the exits in Iraq. We need to stabilize the situation and then leave, but we need to leave, and we need a plan to leave, and I think you'll see one coming forward.
Now, you have taken some heat even within the Democratic Party on your 50-state strategy, that you can no longer be competitive just in blue states, but you have to have a presence, a real competitive presence around the country. When you see Democrats tonight, very competitive in Virginia, competitive, although maybe at this point trailing in Tennessee, and certainly competitive in Montana, do you see that as, in some sense, an embracing, a vindication of your 50-state strategy?
Well, look, I think there's plenty of credit to go around. Look, Emanuel and Schumer and Pelosi and Reid did a great job recruiting really good candidates. They raised a ton of money and poured it into advertising. But it is true that we expect to do well in red states. And you mentioned the Senate races. I believe we're going to pick up the governorship in Colorado. We could pick up the governorship in Nevada. We're going to pick up 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 seats in Arizona in the Congress. So the answer is the Democratic Party has begun to start the long overdue process of reaching out to people in states that we haven't done so well in for a while and haven't even had a presence in for a while. Now we do have a presence in all these states. And so we've got a ways to go. Look, we can't undo what's happened to us over the last 12 years in just one election cycle. But we're going to build on this. Win or lose tonight, and I don't know if we're going to win or lose, but win or lose tonight, we're going back to work tomorrow and continue what we're doing and reaching out to every single American. One of the things that Nancy Pelosi has said, in addition to raising the minimum wage and passing an ethics bill, is that we're going to be civil again. We're going to reach out to everybody. Unlike the Bush administration, who seemed to think they were only president of half the country, everybody is our boss, including those people who didn't vote for us. And I think it's respectful to ask them for their votes. We know we're not going to get some of those votes early on, but if you keep asking and keep reaching out, then I think we will become the majority party in a more sustained way.
Governor Dean, we want to thank you so much for coming on Fox News. We'll be watching the returns for the rest of the night along with you. Britt, back to you.
All
Thanks
right,
for having
Chris,
me on,
thanks
Chris.
to you, and thanks to Governor Dean. Megan Kendall is standing by with some further word on governorships. Megan?
Hey there, Britt. Yeah, you heard Howard Dean say it. The Democrats are looking to pick up some states in terms of their party, and it turns out they have done it. They've held on to a few states and picked up a few as well. First, out of Arizona, we are now projecting that Governor Janet Napolitano is the winner there, beating out her Republican and independent challenges. In Wyoming, you see it there. Governor Freudenthal, it appears, has won over his Democratic challenger, Ray Hunkins. In Texas, Fox News projecting the Republican governor, Rick Perry, has prevailed not only over Chris Bell, who you see there, but over the independent Kinky Friedman, whose campaign slogan was "Why the hell not?" In New York, Fox News projecting that Eliot Spitzer has won as expected over Republican Faso. This is not a surprise, but it is a turnover. This, of course, a state that was governed by a Republican, George Pataki, he now stepping down. In New Mexico, Fox News projecting a win for Bill Richardson, not a surprise, the Democrat over his challenger, John Dendal. In Nebraska, Fox is projecting a win by the sitting governor, Heinemann, the Republican, over David Hahn. In Ohio, as you've been discussing, Fox News has projected a win for Ted Strickland over Ken Blackwell. This will be the first time in 20 years a Democrat has sat in the Ohio governor's seat. And in Oklahoma, you see it there, a Democrat, Brad Henry, the governor, prevailing over Ernest Istook. So, in all, right there, the most exciting news was the Ohio win, of course, for Ted Strickland that Fox News has projected, and New York. Those are two turnovers from red to blue. If you include Massachusetts as well, that's yet another state in which there was a Republican governor, Mitt Romney, that now Fox News is projecting will turn blue. Deval Patrick is the projected winner in that state, as we announced earlier. So there you have it, Brett. At least three major state turnovers from red to blue tonight.
But correct me if I'm wrong, none of those is actually a surprise, right?
Nope.
These were basically the expected.
Not a one. All of those Democrats were polling at least double points ahead of their challengers.
All right, Megan Kendall, great as always. Thank you very much. We're going to take a brief break here. Back with more in a moment.
You Decide 2006 is brought to you by NASDAQ, Life, and the companies that move it forward.
When you're smiling,
Printers and copiers so advanced, they're simple.
when you're smiling,
That's a reason to smile with
the
Kyocera.
whole world smiles with you.
Award-winning performance. Another reason to smile. Brilliant color. Low cost of ownership. And not just reliable, network reliable. New reasons everywhere you look. That's the power of people-friendly. Only from Kyocera.
Whole world smiles with you.
We are now projecting that Senator Lieberman will be reelected as an independent. Now, that's going down on this. We've got a little gizmo on there that says it's a gain. Well, it's a gain if you believe that the independent caucus in the Senate will now have one more member than it had before. Presumably, you'd also believe that Bernie Sanders and Joe Lieberman would get together and be the independent caucus. But Lieberman has said he will caucus with the Democrats, as everybody expects he will. So this is really not a gain for the independents or a loss for the Democrats and Republicans. It is a hold of a seat held by a Democrat, although he has been a particularly interesting kind of Democrat, one who, not so many months ago, when he lost his party's nomination for Senate, based largely on a protest vote against the war in favor of Ned Lamont. That is something we're looking at. We didn't expect that to change, and it didn't change. In the meantime, my colleague Chris Wallace has been joined by another guest, the counterpart of Howard Dean, Ken Mehlman. Chris?
Exactly right, Brett. In the interest of being fair and balanced as always, we bring in the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Ken Mehlman. And Mr. Mehlman, good evening.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We, as I said with Howard Dean, at this point we show 2 Senate seat pickups for the Democrats in Ohio and Pennsylvania, 1 House pickup in Indiana. Do you see anything more out there switching from either Republican to Democrat or Democrat to Republican?
Well, it's very interesting right now. If you look around the country, there are a number of different races that appear to be telling different signals. There's some evidence in Maryland that Michael Steele did historically well in the African-American community. They'll not only be important in that race, it'll be important potentially nationally. The Virginia number's incredibly close. If you look, what's interesting, a significant portion of Northern Virginia is in. Allen appears to be holding on. Ann North is in a very tough race. On the other hand, Jeff Davis is in a place right now. A lot of people expected that to be the closest race in Kentucky, and he's winning big time. He may have already declared victory. So what we really are looking at, we projected about 30 races that would be very close. A lot of it looks like it's a race-by-race decision, which means if you've got viewers watching where the polls are still open, it's very important that they go out and vote.
So you're not prepared at this point to say that you're going to lose the House, let alone the Senate?
Absolutely not. What's interesting to me right now, if you look at the data, is Virginia's very close, Maryland's very close, Missouri looks very close, not a lot of data back from Montana, and all of those are indicative of what's going to be, as we predicted, a very long and interesting evening. So what I would say to folks is grab a bag of pretzels, grab a cold one. It's going to be a long evening.
Governor Dean said that he thinks that this election shows already a mandate for change, especially on Iraq policy, especially on economic policy. Your response?
I think Governor Dean would have that finding no matter what the results were tonight. Let's see what the people say. Let's see what the voters say. Obviously, I think no matter what the outcome, there are areas where we can work together on a bipartisan basis. I've always believed no matter what the election, when you win big or whatever happens, it's always important to look in the mirror and say, what do we do better? How do we do a better job? But to declare based on some early numbers, when particularly as many districts appear close as this one, that there's some kind of national trend, I think is premature.
Let me ask you, though, because you just brought up an area where you do agree with Governor Dean. He talked about a desire among the public for a new civility, for the parties working more closely together than they have in the past. Are the Republicans, and especially is the Bush White House, willing to take up its side of the bargain on that area?
Absolutely, and I think if you look over the period, some of the most important reforms we've made have been bipartisan, whether it's the education reform, the first piece of legislation the president put forward, legislation like the Patriot Act. The war in Iraq was bipartisan. People on both sides recognized the threat that Saddam Hussein posed. You look at the tax relief, that was bipartisan. Litigation reform has been bipartisan. The energy reform has been bipartisan. I absolutely believe there's an opportunity. I hope if Mr. Dean is serious about what he's saying, then he'll recognize that when people disagree with him, they may not be brain dead. They may not be people that are worth hating, but rather simply people who are good people, which I think about him, who just happen to disagree on the issues.
You know, it's interesting. I certainly agree with you that the exit polls indicate a lot of these races are too close to call. But in the most of the states that we have looked at, there is a majority that seems to disapprove of the way the president is handling his job, and a majority disapproves of the war in Iraq. How much headwind has that created for Republican candidates in this election?
Again, I think we need to look at the specific races. There'll be plenty of time to analyze that kind of data. Look, the president has made clear that this war in Iraq is very frustrating to him, and it's to millions of Americans frustrating. It's very hard to face an enemy that is a movement as opposed to a nation, because a movement is much harder to defeat. When you decapitate the military leadership of a nation, then you eliminate command and control. When an enemy can figure out how to build an IED or recruit new terrorists on a website, it's much harder to deal with. And that's why we have to constantly evolve, constantly adjust. And the fact that people on both sides of the aisles are going to recommend ways to do that is a good thing for America.
Finally, there was a lot of talk before the election about the vaunted 72-hour program, the amazing Rove Mehlman Get Out the Vote operation. How have you done so far tonight in terms of that? And do you have any excuses? Did anything go wrong in your get out the vote effort?
I'm sure there are things that on the 72-hour we can do better. After the 2004 election, Chris, we did an incredibly intensive after-action review and figured out how we would do better. I'll tell you this. We know this. Millions of people around the country made tens of millions of calls to help turn the vote out. We saw a level of absentee ballot and early voting in a number of states that could end up saving seats. In Kentucky, in Florida, in Arizona, in Tennessee, in Virginia, in a number of these states, our numbers in absentee and early voting exceeded our numbers in the population. So I think there's a huge opportunity both to look at how we can do it better, but once again, what this proves is the power of people. It proves that neighbors talking to neighbors is an incredibly effective way, even in a tough environment like this, to help spread the word.
Ken Mehlman, we want to thank you so much for coming on. We'll see how the world turns as the evening continues.
We'll talk to you later.
Thanks so much. Britt, back to you.
Okay, now we've heard from both the chairmen, both of them being very calm and cautious. Ken Mehlman seeming, well, he had a lot of smiles. Howard Dean was being, I think, deliberately very subdued. I think, however, he'd be less subdued if he saw this, which is we are now going to project that although he's trailing now with only a little bit of vote in, that the Congressman Ben Cardin will hold that Maryland seat, which has been a Democratic seat for the Democrats, over his challenger, the Lieutenant Governor Michael Steele, who ran what I think most people consider to be was a quite effective campaign in an awfully tough year for a Republican challenger in a state as blue as the state of Maryland is. So that is an important development. One of the first big, well, I won't call it a surprise, but it is one of the first real toss-up races that the really close ones that we've been able to call. We're going to take a break here. We'll be back with more on the other side. Stay tuned.
You Decide 2006 is brought to you by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
No matter where people are going, we're all going in the same direction. The future, something we're thinking about today. A good example, this ultra-clean diesel fuel we're producing in the U.S. It contains 97% less sulfur. And we can all benefit from that. I'm Chris Erickson, and I work for ExxonMobil.
What happens if your latest product goes global in a single bound? Because we consider what might change tomorrow, our customers can feel more relaxed about what might happen today. Zurich, because change happens.
News Channel 8 at 10 on Portland CW. Your choice for the #1 news station. With the largest team of reporters bringing you breaking news from around the city, the country, and the world. The most respected meteorologist with the forecast to plan your day ahead. And sports highlights. The area's most watched, most honored news team. All in a convenient half hour at a time that works for you. Northwest News Channel 8 at 10 on Portland CW, the 10 o'clock choice.
Okay. Next up, Gene Wiseman.
Oh, yeah! I taught her that move. Homegirl can dance, man!
Learn the moves from Happy Feet. Get dance lessons, songs, and more. Exclusively on demand with Comcast Digital Cable. It's Comcastic.
Catch Happy Feet in theaters November 17th.
2006, Election Night.
Not a lot of surprises so far tonight, folks, but a couple of important results. We have been able to call the state of Maryland, not for the Democrats, for Ben Cardin, the congressman running to succeed Paul Sarbanes, longtime Democratic senator from the state of Maryland. It had been thought that Michael Steele, the Republican lieutenant governor, might have had a real shot at picking up that seat, which would have been an extraordinary political achievement in a year that is so lean toward the Democrats. He did not, however, and we are projecting Ben Cardin the winner. We've also called Connecticut for Joe Lieberman, no surprise there. In the meantime, let's check in with Michael Barone down by our decision desk for some further word on his thinking. Michael?
Well, Britt, I'm here to talk to you about the decision desk people have made a determination that we are not going to be relying on exit poll information anymore in projecting the race. What they've done is, through the EMR organization, they've gone back and looked at the actual returns in the precincts where the samples of exiting voters were taken by interviewers. What they found was a 6 to 8 point Democratic bias. That is to say, the exit poll turned out to be 6 to 8% more Democratic than did the vote in the actual precinct when that vote was tallied. So. And sometimes the error is a little more, sometimes the error is a little less. They felt these numbers were unreliable enough that we're not going to deal with them. We're going to be looking at the tabulated vote and making assessments therefrom.
All right, Michael, thank you. We're keeping an eye here, of course, on not only the calls that we're making, but the calls that some others are making as well. And we had a couple we can make right now. Let's take a look here. First of all, Indiana. We're now projecting that the Democrat there will win that race. So that's incumbent Congressman Chris Ciccolo, who had been able to succeed there. This is a race that the Republicans very much thought that they would be able to win. Joe Donnelly, I believe his name is, who has won that race now. That is a net gain of one further for the Democrat. And in Kentucky, we are also making a projection there that Ann Northup, after a number of years in a blue district, will not be reelected, that her Democratic challenger there has won, and this now gives us a little more to talk about in terms of the direction of things in the House of Representatives. Bill, as we look at this now in the House, I think it's fair to say that we're beginning to see the early outlines of what could be a trend.
We are, and it's happening where people expected it to happen. Indiana, Kentucky, and Northup's district, which Kerry carried in a tight race. Ohio, Fred wrote an excellent piece in the Weekly Standard on what they were calling a couple of weeks ago the possible blowout belt.
That's what I was calling it.
No, you invented that term? I don't know.
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, well,
now let's looking along the screen now, Bill, you can see now that if you project the net loss of 3 of the Republicans, the House, if they had to seat it tonight, would be the new House would be 229 to 205, a long way to go, but you can see it's already, we can see there, at least graphically, what a difference it makes. One independent still sitting there.
But I think there will be more than 3. There's no question. I mean, we've seen the beginning of it, and we just don't know how big it will be. A lot will depend on what happens out west. I mean, there's a lot of seats, about 20, 25 seats in the Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Connecticut belt that Fred dubbed the blowout belt. A good chunk of those could go Democratic. Then there are random sort of seats in Arizona and elsewhere. Wyoming's one that large seat. If those start to go, then we're talking 35 or 40.
And the other thing is, of course, we're waiting. We'll be looking for results in New York State,
right,
where there are some endangered Republicans there, and where the word that was being heard, Major Garrett was picking up soundings from some Republican sources that were saying that Hillary Clinton's get out the vote operation for a race that she was in no danger of losing seemed to be making a difference in the turnout for other races there, which of course could only help the Democrats.
Britt, if you add in Pennsylvania, where Republicans may lose 3 seats, New York, where they could lose anywhere from 1 to 5, but probably something like 1 or 2, and then we don't know the 3 endangered Connecticut House seats. Right. 3 Republican seats, all in jeopardy of losing. So I think Democrats have, it's almost, I mean, it's a chip shot to win the House.
In addition to which, there's Ohio, where the Bob Ney seat, I believe, is already gone, that open seat. We've got Steve
You believe
Chabot.
It's gone because you think it's going to go. We haven't called it.
Well, if we haven't called it, the Democrats were, both parties were saying that they thought that the Ney seat was going to go beforehand, and it probably is. Then you have actually 3 other seats in Ohio that are vulnerable, including Gene Schmidt, who was the person who criticized Jack Murtha after he came out with this proposal to withdraw from begin Iraq withdrawals, and she, on the floor, read a letter accusing him of cowardice from another Marine, and earned had to apologize.
She had her words
for it.
taken down, as
Yes,
they say in
exactly.
the House, where you basically have to formally eat your words.
That is a very, very Republican district that she's in, and she's in trouble too. So there could be a 4-seat loss in Ohio. That would be big.
Yeah, this afternoon I was talking to Republicans. Here's their take was, look, you know what? That Northeast that Howard Dean and others were counting on as their stronghold in an attempt to take over the House, they saw that that was fading. They thought there was a chance that Republicans would hold on people like Chris Shays in Connecticut. But what we're seeing early on indicates that in the Republican era, where Republicans should have done better in Indiana, should have done better with Northrop, you would think, in Kentucky, that it's the Republicans who are on the rope at this moment. And again, it looks like this is the start of what will push towards a Democratic.
And we have one more call we're able to make. This in Rhode Island, where Link Chafee, the incumbent Republican, has lost, we project, to the Democratic candidate Sheldon Whitehouse, two men whose views are virtually indistinguishable, but nonetheless, in a state like Rhode Island, in a year like this, with an R next to your name, you're endangered, and so Chafee proved to be endangered. We're going to take a brief break. We're going to take a look at how this alters the structure in terms of who's up, who's down in the House and in the Senate when we come back. Stay tuned.
Last year, Norfolk Southern and its shipping partners took hundreds of thousands of freight loads off the highway. In fact, they've invested millions to convert even more traffic in the coming years. So it's easy to see how the economy won't be the only thing that benefits. Norfolk Southern, the future of transportation.
I saw several girls raped.
Raped right in front of my eyes.
Then they burned them to death.
They killed my sons.
Then my husband. And my brother.
The government just wants us to disappear.
The rest of the world isn't doing anything.
Isn't doing anything.
Anything.
You may not realize it, but there's a source of renewable energy right in your neighborhood, and you're helping to power it. Today, Waste Management is using the resources at our disposal to create energy from waste, enough green energy to power over 1 million homes. From everyday collection to environmental protection, think green, think Waste Management.
Let's turn quickly to my colleague Megan Kendall for more on the governor's races. Megan?
Hi there, Britt. Yeah, we have a couple of interesting updates for you now. The first one out of Wisconsin. This is, Fox News is projecting a Democratic hold. You can see that Governor Jim Doyle, we are projecting now, has prevailed over his challenger, Mark Green. This was a tight race. This one was one of the toss-ups, according to the experts. The Republicans very much wanted to capture this seat from the incumbent. At Fox News now projecting they have failed to do so. The governor, Jim Doyle, holding on. In South Carolina, Fox News projecting now Governor Mark Sanford has prevailed over Democratic challenger Tommy Moore. Of course, we pointed out earlier Mark Sanford had trouble voting today. He also, Britt, burned his eyes on television lights yesterday, burning his cornea. So, Governor Sanford, if you're listening, Fox News projecting good news for you tonight. In Vermont, Governor Jim Douglas, the Republican, Fox News projecting, has prevailed over his Democratic challenger, Scudder Parker. This, too, not really a big surprise. He was expected to hold this day. And finally, in Maine, Fox is projecting that Governor John Baldacci has prevailed over his Republican challenger, Chandler Woodcock. That, again, not a surprise, although Woodcock, quite conservative in Maine, had the support of the two more moderate Republican senators, didn't manage to pull it out there. Again, not a huge surprise. So that's the latest from here, Britt, on the governor's races.
All right, Megan, thanks very much. Let me turn to my colleague Bill Crystal now, who can show us graphically, at least, what has happened in terms of the Senate. Bill?
Well, Britt, if I'm not mistaken, there were 15 Democratic seats up this year, and they have held them all. No Democratic seat will go Republican, and Maryland is the last one we've called. So Maryland and New Jersey were the two that seemed at risk. They are staying Democratic. There were 18 Republican seats up this year. So far, with calling Rhode Island, 3 Republican incumbents. Let me just do this correctly here so I can move this little guy over here. There we go. 3 Republican incumbents have lost. Chafee in Rhode Island, DeWine in Ohio, Santorum in Pennsylvania. The 3 Republican incumbents next at risk would seem to be Allen in Virginia, but that race seems just dead even as we see the popular vote accumulate. That was another one where the original exit polls seemed to be way off.
That's beginning to look like it's going to be a late night on that.
That could be a late night in Virginia. Missouri, early count, looks very close. In Montana, the polls haven't even closed. Tennessee, which has been a close race, Corker seems to have a lead in the raw vote, but no one's calling that either. So the Democrats need 3 more seats. They've held all their seats. Virginia, Missouri, Montana.
So far.
Held all their seats so far.
Well,
and
none of the others was thought in danger. In fact,
Correct.
we're in a position now to call a couple of the races. There are no surprises in either of these. First, let's look at what do we got here first? We got, there you go, Michigan. Debbie Stabenow reelected over. Now that's a candidate that was thought to have been making a late charge. Now pay no attention to that margin there. That's just based on the tabulation that's in so far. But Debbie Stabenow, a winner there. She's was a first termer, so this is. And in Delaware, this is no great surprise either that Tom Carper, the incumbent there, has won out as well. He was never thought to be in any jeopardy. He a winner as well. That furthers, however, Bill, your theme that Democrats do not appear tonight to be on the verge of losing a single seat they now hold to a Republican, which means that Republicans are going to just have to hang on like crazy to what they need 2 or 3 of the remaining the 5 that are still out there that were thought to be the close ones. Let's go to that board again if we can.
Of the 5 Republican seats that are at risk, the Democrats need to win 3 to take whoever wins 3 controls the Senate.
Okay,
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. Tennessee, Arizona, Montana, Missouri, Virginia, and that will be, I think, the big story of tonight because the Democrats look as if they're going to win the House. The margin is a question.
And they have looked for some days as if they were going to win the House. In fact, this morning I looked at all the projections of 5 of the major prognosticators, including our own Michael Verone and our own Robert Novak, and every single one of them had, by one degree or another, the Republicans getting control of the House. They were all over the place on the Senate, anywhere from 2 to 7 or 8. So. This may be why the Republicans still think they have potentially something to cheer about tonight. It might be considered a very major kind of a moral victory and a major hold if they can keep the Senate. Let's go down to the White House and see what the sentiment is there tonight from my colleague, our chief White House correspondent, Bret Baier. Hi, Bret.
Hi, Brett. The President and the First Lady and his chief political advisor, Karl Rove, watching the returns in the White House residence tonight. You'll not be surprised to hear that senior Bush aides say the mood is generally upbeat. They believe the exit polls reminded them of 2004 and that they were out of line. However, that was before the latest calls. Senior aides were really watching that Indiana race, that House race, Chris Ciccolo, that you just called for Joe Donnelly. They were watching that race as well as a number of other House races. The President went on a 11-state tour over the past 9 days, trying to rally the base. And 2 of the places that he thought Republicans, and the White House believes Republicans still have a chance to pick up Democrat seats, are in Georgia. Georgia 12, former Congressman Max Burns against John Barrow. That race they are watching very closely, and I think we might have the current numbers still too close to call, but there you have 55%, 45%. The other race in Georgia is Georgia 8, Mac Collins against Representative Jim Marshall. Again, that is another race that the White House is watching, possibly a Republican pickup, but there you see, again, too close to call, 50% each. The White House, as far as the Senate calls, saying that nothing is too shocking yet, but that, again, was before the Maryland call was made. So they're watching cautiously. I can tell you senior staff just ordered chicken tenders. They think it's going to be a long night.
Okay, maybe some coffee as well. All right, Brett, thanks very much. We're going to check in now to see what is being said about all this in the blogosphere with our colleague, Michelle. How are you doing? Tell us what you got.
Doing good here, Brett. And the blogosphere, which really made a name for itself, challenging the mainstream media's reporting. You remember Rathergate and a lot of the blogosphere coverage during the 2004 election campaign is not resting on its laurels. And of course tonight you've got a lot of grievances, mostly from the right side of the blogosphere, over the leak of exit polls and also what they consider the premature calling of a lot of these races. At newsbusters.org, which is one of the leading mainstream media critic blogs, they've been highlighting the early calls in Pennsylvania. And you've also got an alliance of bloggers in Ohio who have pointed out that there was at least one polling location that was still open at the time that that race was called. So you'll be hearing a lot of of grievances on that front. On another note, it's interesting that after Harry Reid appeared with Charlie Schumer, and we showed it here on Fox News over the past hour, that you have a lot of fissures between liberal bloggers and the Democrat Party now showing. Those cracks are really coming to the fore, particularly after the loss of Ned Lamont, who was really the first YouTube candidate, a blogger-supported candidate who lost. And there's a lot of cannibalism now within the Democrat Party and among liberals over that, and we're seeing that in the blogosphere, Brett.
Okay, Michelle, that's interesting. I suppose before the night is over, we may come in for some criticism because we called the race in Ohio while there were still some polls open by court order out there. Only, 16 or so, but I suppose that could bring us in for some criticism from the people at Newsbusters or probably somewhere else as well. We have a call we're now going to make in a House race in Florida. Now, Buchanan is the Republican. We project he was thought to be in some difficulty there. We thought he might, that's Florida 13, but it appears that we are now projecting that he will win that race, which is a hold for a Republican in one of those places where on a big night for the Democrats he might have gone. So that is, now I'm correct that we are calling this, correct? Okay, I just didn't see the fabled check mark, so I'll look forward to seeing that appear on the screen. We're going to take a break. Maybe we can get our check mark up in the meantime. Stay tuned.
That's Catherine Hurd.
You Decide 2006 is brought to you by the NASDAQ 100 Index Tracking Stock, ticker symbol QQQ.
Invest in these companies and the rest of the NASDAQ 100 Index through QQQ. And investors should consider investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses carefully before investing. For this and other information about QQQ, a unit investment trust, obtain a prospectus from your broker or visit NASDAQ.com/QQQ. Read carefully before investing.
No matter where people are going, we're all going in the same direction. The future, something we're thinking about today. A good example? This ultra-clean diesel fuel we're producing in the U.S. It contains 97% less sulfur, and we can all benefit from that. I'm Chris Erickson, and I work for ExxonMobil.
Welcome back, folks, and we continue with our coverage now of some more governor's races coming in by the minute. Fox News is now able to project a winner in the state of Michigan. It looks like Governor Jennifer Granholm will hold on to her seat, beating back a challenge by Dick DeVos. This was one the Republicans really wanted, didn't know if they could win, but were giving it the old college try. And in Maryland, huge news. Fox News projecting that the governor, Bob Ehrlich, the Republican governor, has been ousted. That Baltimore Mayor O'Malley has won that seat, and O'Malley will head from Baltimore now, becoming the governor, the 61st governor of the state of Maryland. That is a big one. In the state of Kansas, Fox News projecting that Governor Kathleen Sebelius will hold her seat, beating back a challenge from Republican Jim Barnett. Not a huge surprise there. Illegal immigration an issue in that race. And finally, Fox News is projecting in Alabama a win for Governor Bob Riley over his Democratic challenger. That, too, not a big surprise. But, of course, the big news now in this hour is the win in Maryland for Mayor O'Malley. It's interesting because the sitting governor, Bob Ehrlich, had said, he's a Republican, that if Lieutenant Governor Michael Steele lost his bid for the Senate, he would go down as well. Ehrlich would go down as well. As it turns out, his prediction was correct. Fox News has predicted both of those men have lost their races on this Tuesday night. Britt?
Okay, Megan, thanks very much. Worth commenting, this Ehrlich race. Ehrlich was a Republican in a Democratic state, but it had been thought, I think widely thought, that he had been an effective and successful governor. He's an attractive guy, youthful guy, Is this just a case of having the wrong letter next to his name?
Largely,
collateral damage. Really,
he had very good approval ratings.
Over 60%.
He even got the Washington Post endorsement, which means a lot in the suburbs. He was very appealing. He's pro-choice, or at least not. Yeah, he is. I guess he defined himself as pro-choice. He's pro-stem cell research, unlike Michael Steele, and had some appeal in the close-in suburbs, but it wasn't enough. This is just.
Now, is it fair to say that this is? I mean, we always say that House races tend to be, and Senate races as well, tend in off-year elections, particularly House races, tend to be settled on local issues. Is this a race that got so? This whole overall race got so nationalized that we can say that Bob Ehrlich was affected by Iraq?
Well, O'Malley, the winner, actually ran ads linking Ehrlich to George Bush. I mean, utterly.
Well, who knows what worked? Bill, your thoughts?
And obviously, the governor's races can separate more from the national trend, and there are Republican governors who will end up winning in blue states and vice versa. But it is striking to me, just looking at the results we have in now, how much being in a blue state, in a Democratic state, is hurting Republicans this year. The place Republicans seem to be hanging on, we just call Florida 13. Catherine Harris's district, Buchanan has been behind there throughout almost the whole race. It's next door to Foley's district. There was a lot of talk about how the Foley scandal would hurt there. Ultimately, though, Florida remains a pretty Republican state, and that's a Republican district, and it came home for the Republicans. At Georgia, these two Democratic congressmen, the only two Democratic congressmen it looks like who are endangered, are in Georgia, a very Republican state where a Republican governor got reelected easily, that Bush carried obviously very easily. It strikes me that we have had a nationalized election, and the Republicans who are going down in Democratic states.
One of the common descriptions I heard when you go out and cover politics this year about Republicans is a good Republican candidate, bad Republican year. A perfect description of Bob Ehrlich, the governor of Maryland.
I thought a terrific governor. And one would have to say Michael Steele as well.
Absolutely. I think they both ran good campaigns. Now, Ehrlich, you got to remember, Ehrlich defeated Kathleen Townsend Kennedy after Glendening, who was a popular, at least for most of his time, popular Democratic governor of Maryland, left. And the reason that Ehrlich was able to do that was the sentiment that it's time for reform, time for change. And he was popular, and yet here you get O'Malley bringing the strength of a Democratic Party machine in Baltimore City and relying on the African-American vote in Prince George's County to triumph. Just in the last few days, you've had Barack Obama and Bill Clinton go into that state to try to rouse the Democratic vote. That's the importance that Democrats had put on that race toward the end, and it looks like it's paid off for them.
All right, Bill, give us a look now at the balance of power as it now stands. On that, this is of course in the House. We haven't used this one before. We're going to need to lose that ticker at the bottom of the screen. So we're going to do the Senate. Okay, go ahead, Bill. Do the Senate for us.
Well, let's do the Senate first. It hasn't changed. Again, I'm so struck. Look at the Senate seats that are that the Republicans need to hold. Virginia, a mildly Republican state. Missouri, a mildly Republican state, very mildly Republican state.
Yeah, much more mildly than Virginia.
Right. Tennessee, Arizona, Montana, pretty Republican states. Montana, Senator Burns thought, though, to be in very serious trouble. They really need to win Tennessee and Arizona, but then really it'll be very interesting to see what happens in Virginia and Missouri.
All right, good. Now let's look at the House if we can. Your screen real estate, there you got more room there. Yeah, good.
I haven't moved all these House seats. What this, I think, screen shows most interestingly is how few Democratic House seats were at risk. This isn't just Democratic incumbents. These are Democratic-held House seats.
And some of those have shifted, though, right?
Right. Well, yeah, some of these in here
Indiana,
I haven't had a chance.
You got a bunch of them to move. Indiana 8's going to come over,
Indiana 8 should go over there. And Florida 13 stays, which I think is interesting. That we thought that was one of the ones most at risk. It's why we had it in this
Kentucky
in this group.
3 needs to move over. I don't know if that's on your screen there.
No, it's not on the screen. We can move it onto the screen. Florida 13 we thought was one of the ones most at risk. That is held. Several of these other ones.
And of course, that's not an incumbent either. I mean, that's Catherine Harris's old seat,
I would predict insanely that incumbency. We hear so much incumbency so strong. Incumbency will be less of a factor this year, I think, than ideology. That is, being an open seat in a conservative area, Florida 13. You're better off than being a popular incumbent, a strong incumbent like a Chris Shays in Connecticut, who's not in a Republican or conservative state.
And now the balance of power has shifted just a little bit further, 229-205, because well, it hasn't shifted further, I should say, because we predicted Vern Buchanan will hold on there. Let's get a little bit more about that district and that race and what it may portend from our colleague Michael Barone down at the decision desk. Michael?
Well, Britt, one of the interesting things about that race was that it broke down as a sort of fight between two big coastal counties on the district, Manatee County, which the major cities are Bradenton, and Sarasota County, major city is Sarasota. Sarasota is sort of more upscale. You get people move down there from kind of the tonier Midwestern suburbs and so forth. Bradenton is a little more mixed group, working class. There's Walmarts there and that sort of thing. And what's interesting in this race is that it was the Republican Vern Buchanan who carried Manatee County and who carried the several interior counties of Florida, the areas that voted historically Democratic for many years, switched to the Republicans in the 80s and 90s. And it was the Democrat, Christine Jennings, a former Republican herself, who carried Sarasota County. Buchanan got enough votes in Manatee and the two other counties to win. So it's sort of a reversal of the old politics of the New Deal period, when it was assumed that the sort of rich and socially famous socially Tony people were Republicans and the common folk were more like the common folk were Democrats. Kind of a reversal. I also done to take a quick look at Florida 16. The numbers there right now suggest that it's possible, not for sure, but possible that Mark Foley could still win. Formally, actually, of course, a vote for Mark Foley is a vote for State Representative Joe Negron. And one of the reasons is that Martin County, the most Republican county there, still has 60% of the votes out. And if those go the way the other Repub votes go, Repubs may hold on to this scandal-endangered seat.
Very interesting. Let me ask you one question about the Buchanan race. Is that a race that was thought sufficiently endangered that the fact that the Republicans are holding it could tell us something more about A, the rest of Florida, and B, perhaps the rest of the country, or not?
Yeah, I think so. President Bush went down there. This was one in trouble. Jennings seemed to be ahead in the polls. Buchanan seems to have pulled it out.
All right, because Michael, thank you. The assignment at the moment for the Republicans would seem to be to hold on to the Senate if they possibly can and contain their House losses as best they can, knowing, as I'm sure they must feel now, that the House is going to end up Democratic tonight, but perhaps not the Senate and perhaps not the House by so big a margin. We don't know yet. That's the story we'll be watching, and we'll take a break and be right back with it.
You Decide 2006 is brought to you by AARP. Don't vote until you know where the candidates stand on the issues. Visit don'tvote.com.
I'm handsome, I'm funny, I tell a good joke. I'll hug you, I'll kiss you, I don't even smoke. My wife is impeccable, my past quite respectable. Vote for me assuredly, but don't ask about Social Security. Come have some pie with me.
Don't fall for the song and dance. Vote the issues, not just the personality. See where the candidates stand at don'tvote.com.
For the latest must-know info, tune in to Comcast. For the Hollywood buzz before it starts buzzing, must-haves of the moment, and celebrities out and about. Watch Debbie, Sal, and Kat on the Daily 10, weeknights at 7:30 and 11:30 on E! Comcast Channel 70. You love them, and they love you. New shows of Fashion Disaster, where Stacey and Clinton's help is desperately needed. Don't miss What Not to Wear, Fridays at 9 p.m. on TLC, Comcast Channel 38. Find more of what you love to watch with Comcast.
Considering a career change, have you dreamed of a career as a helicopter pilot? Silver State Helicopters is offering a free employment opportunity seminar Thursday, November 9th at 7 p.m. We'll show you how you can earn your commercial helicopter pilot's license in less than 18 months and start earning $50,000 to $100,000 annually. This professional training program allows you to become a commercial helicopter pilot with no upfront cost to you. The seminar is Thursday, November 9th at 7 p.m. Come see us at the Salem Municipal Airport. To reserve your seat, call 1-888-91-PILOT today.
Not on my shift.
Save big bucks. Sign up for Comcast Digital Voice for just $39.95 a month, every month. with unlimited local and long distance plus voicemail. You'll save $237 a year over Verizon. Just call 1-800-COMCAST today. Comcast Digital Voice. It's Comcastic.
On the streets of Tokyo, a new style of racing rules.
Let's see what the kids got in this race.
The only way to win,
you came to the wrong place,
is to lose control.
Hey, look, what's up?
The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift.
Hit movies without the trip to the video store. On demand with Comcast Digital Cable.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, it is good news for Republicans in the state of Florida right now. Fox News can now project the winner in that governor's race will be Charlie Crist. This was a hard-fought battle to replace Jeb Bush, who is retiring because of term limits. It does appear at this hour that Charlie Crist will take over the seat. The Republicans will not lose that state house, as was feared as recently as yesterday. Crist was ahead by only 7 percentage points. This must be a relief to him. It does appear that he has retained the Republican seat in that state. In South Dakota as well, Fox is projecting a win for the Republicans. Governor Mike Rounds will retain his seat, we project, over his Democratic challenger. Mike Rounds, you may recall, is the governor who signed that bill banning abortion in virtually all cases except to save the life of the mother. He's very popular in that state. Not a huge surprise that he would prevail tonight. So how do things stand tonight? Let's take a look at the map. 36 states were up for a vote in terms of the governorships. We are now projecting change in terms of a shift in power in 4 of those states. The biggest and perhaps the most significant thus far is the state of Maryland, where we are projecting that Governor Ehrlich has been ousted by Baltimore Mayor Democrat Martin O'Malley. Also in the state of Massachusetts, an expected shift. Deval Patrick will now become the nation's second black governor. First ever for Massachusetts. He prevailed over his Democratic challengers and will replace a Republican Mitt Romney there. In Ohio, Ted Strickland, the projected winner, beating down Ken Blackwell, who is the Republican challenger, and replacing a Republican. And then finally in the state of New York, Fox has already projected a big win as expected for Eliot Spitzer, a Democrat who has prevailed over his Republican challenger, Joe Faso. That not a surprise. So perhaps, again, the biggest news out of Maryland. But Florida must come as a big relief to the Republicans, who very much wanted to hold on to that seat, and now it appears they have. Britt?
And Megan, of course, as we noted earlier, the president went down there to campaign for Charlie Crist, among others, and Crist decided not to attend the rally. He was needed elsewhere in the state, and I guess he can say that his strategy worked. And I'm sure the president can say, yeah, but I helped. So, so there you have it. Of course, that's a state where the politics has been dominated to some extent for many years by the president's brother, Jeb. Thanks, Megan, very much. We got a quick call we can give you here in the state of Virginia, in West Virginia, excuse me. This isn't a big surprise that the Democrat Alan Mollahan has held on to his seat. He had a little ethical mini flap that dusted up, and he was at that point the ranking Democrat on the ethics committee, and it caused him a little bit of a headache, and the Democrats ushered him off of that panel presently. And but he was never in great doubt for re-election, but there he is, re-elected. So, Alan Mollahan, welcome back to Washington. And let's discuss for a moment here. Bill, give us a sense, if you can, from that wonderful telestrator you have there, the screenwriter, what the situation looks like in the House, if you can. You've had a chance to update that a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. The 2 Democratic seats that are possible pickups, Georgia 8 and Georgia 12, are just too close to call. It looks like, well, they're just very, very close, within about 1,000 votes. Each of them, Republicans would love to pick up, at least knock off one Democratic incumbent. In 1994, one of the great Republican sort of points to chortle about afterwards was that no Republican incumbent lost in the Senate, the House, or the governorships. I think the Republicans are in danger of having that reversed this year. It's not clear any Democratic seat is going to go Republican. None will in the Senate, I think we can say with confidence. I don't believe any Democratic governorship is going to go to the Republicans.
But they could get a couple out of Georgia.
But they could get these 2 Georgia House seats. That will be interesting. And then I think the Florida seats, the fact that the Republicans have won Florida 13 here, which was really at risk. He was way behind Buchanan, or well behind earlier, about a month ago. And then these 2 in Florida 16, Florida 22, which one is Foley's district, which was written off right away. This is a typical case, if I could say, where conventional wisdom just goes wrong. They assume voters are so stupid. Foley gets ousted in a scandal. His name's still on the ballot, and people say, well, he couldn't possibly win. The substitute candidate couldn't possibly win because the voters have to be smart enough to know that they have to punch Foley's name, but they're really voting for Negron.
Well, actually, or check Foley's name or cast. But some clever Republican strategist thought of a slogan: "Punch Foley to elect Joe," right?
To elect Joe,
Negron, right?
And Negron's a popular, I think, state senator or state assemblyman, well known, and that they educated the voters well. And it looks again, but again, it shows how important I think ideology is or beliefs. You know, it's a conservative district. The voters wanted to elect a Republican, and they seem to have found their way. They may have found their way to doing so, despite this obstacle.
It's a huge. You would have to consider them just in the political experience a huge obstacle. In about 10 seconds here, we're going to be able to make some calls in states where, at least in one state where the polls are closing. You can see Iowa, and then 3 of those Mountain West states are going to be closing, and have now done so. So let's take a look at the great state of Utah, where we are able to project now, and this is going to come as a surprise to absolutely no one, except those who weren't aware that he was up for re-election, because he was never in any trouble. That veteran Republican Senator Orrin Hatch has been re-elected. No surprise there. Thank you very much. Missouri. Well, we're watching this one carefully. These 3 races I'm going to talk about now. Missouri, where we're saying that is still too close to call. McCaskill ahead, but it's just not enough to go on in a great big state like that. Also Tennessee, similarly, although Bob Corker has been ahead. He's ahead now. There seems a significant chance that he will win, but it is still too close to call. We're not able to project it, not least because we don't trust our exit polls. And in Virginia, we have a similar situation, although this race is really tight. You can see they're 85% of the precincts in, and Allen is ahead by 29,000 votes. 29,000 votes can shift in just a couple of counties in a state the size of Virginia if they're in the most densely populated. So we're not in a position to call that. That is really, if you're looking at a pivotal race right now that might be able to be called sometime in the next hour or so, that would be the one. I think we're going to be here awfully late on Missouri, and possibly on Tennessee as well. And those 3 will tell the tale of whether the Republicans can hold the Senate or whether the Democrats will, as many of them believe that they were in a position to do, get control of the place. And that'll be the big story for the rest of this night as we watch it go forward. Fred.
Britt, we haven't commented on this effort by Republicans in nominating African Americans for top positions on the ballot. The criticism of Republicans had always been that they were willing to nominate a black, but it was always in a race that was not winnable. Well, this time they nominated Lynn Swann for governor of Pennsylvania, Ken Blackwell for governor of Ohio, and probably the most important of all, Michael Steele for the Senate seat in Maryland. They have all failed.
Let me interrupt you for a second, Fred, because we're going to get a look at how things are going tonight out in Missouri. Jim Talent, the incumbent Republican, is speaking to followers there at his headquarters. Let's listen.
Lovely lady on my right, your left, Mom, my mother-in-law, without whom our family could not function. Thank you, Mom. And then Kate and Chrissy, our 2 daughters, who cleared. It was kind of them to clear their social calendars so they could be with us this evening. And then my son Mike, whose school is playing their first postseason football game this year tomorrow night. And folks, I'm going to be there. What do you think about that? And then my wife Brenda, and I heard Senator Bond say that she's a better campaigner than I am. And of course he's right.
Okay, well, you get a sense of it. He doesn't have anything much to say, really. He's introducing his family to the appreciative talent followers there, including his son, who's got the postseason game tomorrow night. We'll try, folks, to keep you abreast of those results as well. And if Young Talent's team wins, we'll be sure to tell you. And if not, well, we'll tell you that, too. In the meantime, we got a call to make, and this is an important one in Connecticut. Nancy Johnson, veteran incumbent Republican, has lost to Chris Murphy there. This was a seat that was thought that she could hold on to. This is one of those states that is not a good state for George Bush, but it is one in which Nancy Johnson had been able to succeed in a variety of political climates over a number of years, and she did not prevail. This is a pickup for the Democrats and possibly a turning point. Let's go to my colleague Major Garrett, who's been following all the House races down in Washington. Major, your thoughts?
Well, Britt, Connecticut is a big problem for House Republicans, and I can tell you that in my conversations via email in the last hour, I've talked via email to 4 senior Republican strategists, all who work for senior House Republicans, and I've gotten these estimates from them about how many seats Republicans will lose: 20, 23, 25, and 30, all well above the 15-seat threshold necessary for Democrats to regain control of the House for the first time since 1994. And Nancy Johnson's race is one of the reasons why. Nancy Johnson is in her 12th term in Congress, a very respected, moderate Republican, very experienced on tax, trade, and health policy. She ran locally. She did all the things in the Republican playbook to try to withstand this anti-Bush, anti-Republican climate because of the war, because of health care, because of the economy. It didn't work. There are a couple of other Connecticut seats still in jeopardy, a couple of other New Hampshire seats in jeopardy, Pennsylvania, New York. In the entire Northeast, Republicans are seeing a lot of problems with the underlying turnout numbers and early vote totals. They're very concerned about that, and if there's a wave in the Northeast, Republicans fear it could spread to the Midwest and to the West. But right now, Republicans very glum about their prospects of holding the House. Their only remaining hope, Britt, is that the losses are in the low 20s, not the high 30s. Back
Okay,
to you,
Major,
New York.
very useful, very good information. Thank you very much. And your colleague Carl Cameron is there in Washington as well with some thoughts about a key Senate race. Carl?
Well, Brett, we're still waiting on the beginnings of the returns to come out of Montana, a very early part of that night out there in the Northwest. That's a race that Conrad Burns had managed to close the gap in the final few days, and there's really a very difficult way of assessing this because Democrat John Tester did so much work with the early voting when Democrats out there. Republicans believe that that one's going to go quite late in the evening as well, not the least of which is because of the time zone problems. And if Conrad Burns should be able to hold on to that very red state, Big Sky Country, it brings us back to what we've been talking about all night. And here at Fox, we were among the first to point out what Republicans called the firewall states. It's Missouri, Virginia, and Tennessee, 3 contiguous states in the South that are so tight tonight. And right now, more than 90% of the vote has been counted in Virginia, and it's still far too close to call. In Missouri, they're just really getting started, and Jim Talent has moved out to a tiny little bit of a lead, but it's very, very early on the returns. And Tennessee, both campaigns, both parties down there, saying that they're going to have to wait, too. All the momentum for Bob Corker, the Democrats are arguing, still hasn't been completed. But if the Republicans can hang on to that 3-state firewall across the bottom, across the Old South there, they believe they'll be able to hold on, and that's where Democrats are trying to break it.
Okay, Carl, very interesting. Thanks very much. It is just after 10:07 in the East, and the national election picture is such now that I think Bill Kristol can sum it up for us, at least as regards the Senate. Bill?
Well, just as Carl was saying, even if Montana goes, just do this right, goes Democratic, which I think most people would have predicted based on the polls.
Yeah, certainly a few weeks ago.
Right, that's a +4 for the Democratic. Tennessee looks like Republicans are hanging in. Obviously, we only have 53% of the actual raw vote, but it looks like it's staying there. Arizona is predicted to stay there. They need to win Missouri and Virginia. And I'm really struck by Virginia. The early exit polls showed a disaster for George Allen in Virginia. The later exit polls have closer, but actually the final exit polls still showed Webb winning fairly comfortably. But the real vote, we're now at 90% of the raw vote, which is a lot of vote. And last I saw, Allen was still ahead by about 30,000. It's getting a little hard to make that up. We don't know what's out, what precincts are out. Maybe it's, inner city precincts in Richmond or something, and Webb's going to come back. But it looks to me like if you had asked a typical Republican which seat of these are they going to lose, I think many of them might have said, gee, Virginia looks rough. But it might be that George Allen saves Republicans the majority in the Senate.
Wow. Let's take a quick look out in Indiana. This is one of those battleground House races, and we predict that the incumbent Mike Sodrell who was one of the endangered Republicans in Indiana, will lose now to his challenger, Barron Hill. Barron Hill, if I'm not mistaken, is a former congressman whom Sodrell defeated in a previous election. So this was a rematch, and the results have been reversed. So that's a further confirmation of a trend we've seen in Indiana and elsewhere. Major Garrett joins me again. Major, your thoughts on this race?
Well, Britt, a couple of things. First of all, that is a rematch. When Barron Hill lost to Mike Sodrell last election in 2004, it was by less than 1,500 votes, and Democrats felt very confident that in a rematch in this anti-Bush, anti-Republican year, they'd have a chance. But I want to tell you, our viewers should pay attention to this race because I think it's going to be subject to legal challenge. It's very close, and I'm already reading from my notes here that in Monroe County, the largest county in that 9th district in Indiana, there is a dispute over some absentee ballots. The FBI has already been contacted, is investigating that. Republican lawyers have raised alarms about some absentee ballots found after all the ones were supposedly turned in. There's some disputes about ballots in that huge county, Monroe County. This will probably be one of many, Britt, if they're close, that will be subject to legal scrutiny and some legal review. Back to you.
Major, very interesting. Thanks very much. We're going to take a brief break. Back with more in a moment. Stay tuned.
Invest in these companies and the rest of the NASDAQ 100 index through QQQ. An investor should consider investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses carefully before investing. For this and other information about QQQ, a unit investment trust, obtain a prospectus from your broker or visit NASDAQ.com/QQQ. Read carefully before investing.
Are high performers made?
Catch that, old man.
Or remade? Accenture research reveals high performers never stop remaking themselves, even after becoming industry leaders.
Well, looks like you're away.
We know what it takes to be a tiger. See findings from our research on over 500 high performers. Accenture, high performance delivered.
All right, we got a call we're going to be able to make in another one of those battleground House seats. This one in Pennsylvania. This is Pennsylvania 7. Pennsylvania 7 is the area around is one of those districts near Philadelphia. Curt Weldon, the incumbent Republican there, had been there a while. Joe Sestak, his challenger, has won. You see the margin there. That's based on the raw vote with half the precincts in. That may not be anything like as big a margin when all is said and done, but we projected it will be big enough that Joe Sestak will be the new congressman from the 7th District of Philadelphia. And for more on Pennsylvania, for more on that district, what it is and what this race's outcome says, let's turn to Michael Barone. Michael?
Yeah, Britt. Pitch it to me again. Which district are we talking about?
Talking about Pennsylvania 7, where we're projecting now that Weldon is a loser to Joe Sestak. He had been in trouble. We've known that. And of course, we don't know what the final margin is going to be, but what is that district like, and what does that tell us about how other races in that same vicinity might go?
Well, that's close-in suburbs southeast of Philadelphia. It includes most of Delaware County, which is historically Republican, but which voted for John Kerry. It's been trending Democratic as people move out from Philadelphia. It also includes some of Chester County and Montgomery County. It appears that of the Delaware County precincts in now Sestak, the Democrat, has 55% of the vote. He's essentially running about where John Kerry did 2 years ago. There's no Chester County numbers in yet, but it doesn't appear that they could suffice even if Weldon carried that area to win.
Okay, Mike.
That's farther out, more upscale suburbs.
Now, we've got two other suburban Philadelphia districts that are in play tonight that have been, one of them is the 6th district where Jim Gerlach is the Republican incumbent. The other, Mike Fitzpatrick, a young Republican incumbent in there as well. if Weldon loses, does that suggest to you that given the configuration and the kind of population you have in those areas, that those two guys are in deeper trouble than we might have known?
Well, I think that they've got demographically districts that are somewhat more Republican, that the Weldon had particular problems because of charges that he'd steered lobbying business to his daughter and so forth. In the 6th district, Gerlach, what we're showing now is the Democrat Lois Murphy ahead. She's leading in Montgomery County, which is the inner suburbs, Lower Marion, and it's an area with a lot of very rich people that has trended more and more liberal as time goes on, large Jewish population. She's carried that before and hasn't won, but she's also winning in Berks County. This is really a little beyond the Philadelphia area going into Reading. It's John Updike country. Jim Gerlach has carried that area before, campaigned hard there. So far in the initial returns doesn't seem to be working for him. Caveat, no Chester County returns yet in, which is the most Republican of those 3 counties, and we don't know which parts of those counties, which kind of precincts are in.
So, Michael, we do know one more thing from Pennsylvania. This is the 10th district. This is the district of incumbent Republican Congressman Don Sherwood, who had been damaged, as you know, by a scandal involving his having a mistress and all the stuff that goes with that. We project, well, this is the, this is the Ohio district. We're projecting Ohio, we're calling this Ohio House race. This is the 18th congressional district. We're projecting a gain here by Zach Space in the district formerly occupied by Bob Ney. That is in the eastern part of Ohio there, a very rural district. And we're projecting that Zach Space will win out over Joy Padgett, the Republican candidate. That was one of those endangered Midwestern seats, Michael. And let me look also at this Pennsylvania. This is the Don Sherwood seat I was mentioning a minute ago. That's Congressional District 10. That is above and away from Philadelphia a bit. And we're projecting that Don Sherwood, and this was one of those races that was thought to be a loser for the Republicans, and it has turned out to be that way. Michael, your thoughts on those two races?
Well, those are 2 scandal seats, Britt. If you had approached anybody of either party in December '04 and said, are those 2 seats going to go Democratic, they would have said you got to have hole in your head to believe that. But that Ohio district, as you point out, kind of hilly country in southeast Ohio, between Columbus and the Ohio River, but not including either of those
areas. That's the Bob Ney seat, and he, of course, resigned in disgrace just the other day after being indicted, right?
And he was replaced on the ballot by the Ohio Republican Party by Joy Padgett, who had been a state legislator. Turns out, I believe, that she had filed for bankruptcy recently, so she was not, let's say, the ideal candidate. Zach Space, the winner of the Democratic primary, was well positioned to win, and he did win. That about a 55%. The Don Sherwood district's northeast Pennsylvania. It goes from Pike County, which is a fast-growing area, people fleeing New York taxes and New Jersey taxes are moving there. West across the upper border, heavily Republican district. Sherwood's problems too much to overcome.
Okay, Michael Barone, thanks very much. We've got to take a brief break. Back with more reporting, more calls, and more discussion. Stay tuned.
You Decide 2006 is brought to you by AARP. Don't vote until you know where the candidates stand on the issues. Visit don'tvote.com.
I'm handsome, I'm funny, I tell a good joke. I'll hug you, I'll kiss you, I don't even smoke. My wife is impeccable, my past quite respectable. Vote for me assuredly, but don't ask about Social Security. Come have some pie with me.
Don't fall for the song and dance. Vote the issues, not just the personality. See where the candidates stand at don'tvote.com.
When you're smiling. Printers and copiers so advanced, they're simple. When you're smiling. That's a reason to smile with Kyocera. The whole world smiles with you. Award-winning performance. Another reason to smile. Brilliant color. Low cost of ownership. And not just reliable, network reliable. New reasons everywhere you look. That's the power of people-friendly. Only from Kyocera. The whole world smiles with you.
It's time to build your future. Comcast, a leader in communications technology, is offering sales positions with unlimited commission potential. Earn respect connecting your community with the finest in entertainment products. Get comprehensive training, plus paid vacation, 401k, tuition reimbursement, and free digital cable and high-speed internet. Comcast is the career opportunity that you're looking for. Apply online at Comcast.com and start building your future today.
The eagle takes his prey by surprise with a sleazy guitars and a trashy beat. This next number sneaks way up on you. It's Eagles of Death Metal with I Only Want You, and their hook-heavy tones will surely leave a mark.
We're all VJs. Pick and play hundreds of free music videos on demand with Comcast Digital Cable. It's Comcastic.
We got a quick call we can make in a House race. This out in Ohio. This is no great surprise, the Democrat holding on to that seat, but we're trying to give you what House calls we can when we can. This is a hold. This was not a battleground seat or an especially dramatic challenge mounted by Republican Blasdell there. So that's not one that we're glad to pass it on to you, but it doesn't change the balance of power in any notable way. In the meantime, we're watching this. This is getting exciting. We're up to 91% of the raw vote counted in Virginia, and we have George Allen with about a 31,000 vote lead over Jim Webb. It's beginning to get high enough now that you can begin to look at 30,000 as meaningful. Of course, you don't know exactly what's outstanding and how big particular precincts might be, but 9% left to count. That's enough for Webb to certainly overtake him. It's too close to call, but he begins to look a little bit meaningful. Bill, your thoughts on that race and the overall picture there?
Well, it's just exciting with in this day of exit polls and projections to actually see, like in the old days, a real race with the vote adding up and trying to calculate in one's head, there are about 175,000 it looks like votes left. Webb would have to win that remainder of the vote by 30,000. It does seem to be closing gradually. Those votes must be coming in from slightly Democratic areas. Right. But at the rate it's going right now, it's going to be very, very close. It would be amazing, I would say, though, if the Republicans hold the Senate, because George Allen beats back Webb after all the troubles he's had in that campaign.
One man who campaigned absolutely tirelessly for Republicans across the country was Senator John McCain of Arizona, widely thought to be a likely presidential contender in 2 years. And he is now with our Chris Wallace. Chris, Senator McCain.
Thank you, Britt. And Senator McCain, let me welcome you. There obviously are Democratic pickups tonight, the possibility still that they may take control of the House and or the Senate. How do you read these election returns tonight, sir?
I read them, of course, as disappointing, and from a personal standpoint, I really am sad about losing someone like Mike DeWine, who was a wonderful senator and a dear friend. But I think this is because many of our voters have begun to believe that we value power over principle, and that we came to Washington to reform the government, and we became part of the government. And one of the reasons why our base is not happy is because of the out-of-control spending. Of course, the war in Iraq overlays much of this, and I understand people's frustration. I'm frustrated. All of us are frustrated, but I still believe that if we lose there, it is a recipe for disaster, and we need to find a way through it. But I do not believe we can leave without having severe consequences throughout the world.
If voters are calling for change in Iraq tonight, and most of the exit polls indicate that there is at least a plurality, if not a majority, that supports change, opposes the war in Iraq, what kind of change do you think they want?
Well, that's the question, because they're obviously frustrated. I'm frustrated. You're frustrated. The majority of Americans are frustrated because we have not been able to install a democratic government there. And we're going to have to figure out ways to do it, and we're going to have to, probably in a bipartisan fashion if we can, but most importantly, recognize that if you leave, it's not like Vietnam. You came home from Vietnam and it was over. These people are interested in our destruction, and I don't think there's any doubt that chaos in the region, which it would spread to, would threaten our national security interests. And I understand how unpopular that statement is, but it's something that I can, all the years and experience and knowledge that I have leads me to that conclusion, and literally every military expert I know.
Senator, you have always said, and I have questioned you about this repeatedly on Fox News Sunday, when are you going to decide about 2008? You always say after the 2006 elections. Well, I just checked, the polls are officially closed in Arizona, so what about it?
I'll let you know early next year, but could I just add, Chris, look, we've taken setbacks before. In '76, we lost just about everything, and Ronald Reagan gave us new direction, new focus. We get back to our conservative principles, which I still think the majority of Americans share. We're gonna come right back, and we'll learn, we'll listen to the voters, and I think we've got a very vibrant and strong party and a philosophy that works. We just got to get back to it.
But let me ask you about that, because you bring up a very interesting question. 1974 was a debacle for Republicans, and the answer was this fellow from out west, outside of the Republican establishment in Washington, who did bring change and new ideas. What about you? Are you part of the solution or part of the problem, sir?
All of us Republicans are going to sit down together and listen to the voters, get the message from tonight, and we're going to shape not a new agenda, but a return to the principles and philosophy of what we stand for and believe in. Less government, lower taxes, less regulation, strong national defense. Be more careful stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. Stop this profligate spending. I wanted a Medicare prescription drug program for people who needed it. But we gave them one which is multi-trillion-dollar addition to the deficit. We got to get back to our conservative principles, and I know of no better guide than one Ronald Reagan.
Senator McCain, well, of course, he isn't going to be on the ballot, but Senator McCain, you may be. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, and we'll be pouring over the entrails for some time to come. Thanks again, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Britt?
Chris, thanks to you, and thanks to Senator McCain as well. It's good to have him. Good to have you, Chris. We're keeping an eye as we go here, obviously, on that Virginia Senate race, which is turning into be the most exciting and suspenseful one of the night, because we have so much vote in, and we think we may be getting to the point where we may have a real indication. We're also keeping an eye on a couple of congressional districts in Florida. Bill Kristol, your thoughts about, I guess it's Florida 22 is one in particular. The Florida, I guess it was 16 held for the Republicans in a situation that looked bad, or do I have that wrong?
13 held,
Florida 13,
I think.
excuse
That's
me.
the Catherine Harris district.
Yeah, that held for the Republicans. Your thoughts about 22 and the other Florida races that we're looking at there on your board there, your power player board?
The Republicans are trailing slightly in Florida 22, which is Clay Shaw's district. It's always been a pretty close district. Looks like they may not take all three in Florida. And 16, which is the Foley, you vote for Foley, but you mean to vote for Negron.
Yeah, see,
seems to be just about
76% of the returns in there, Bill, as you can see, and Shaw trailing by 7,000 votes. That's still awfully close, but it does suggest that that's either going to be a cliffhanger or a pickup for the Dems.
Right, it looks like that could be.
Right.
But equally striking are these two Georgia seats, really the only possible Republican pickups from the Democrats, Georgia 8 and Georgia 12, where I believe the real vote now is a slight edge for the Republicans. If we can look at the real vote, that would be interesting.
Well, it may come up in the cycler. We remember here, we got a couple of boards here.
Right.
Yeah, you see, that's a 3,000 vote margin with 56% in. I'm not sure what the population of that district is, but that's very close. But you see 3,000 amounts to 4 percentage points, so it's meaningful.
Right.
So it may be that, as you say, that could be a pickup. Also, CD 12 there, that's Max Burns running there to try to knock off the incumbent Democratic Congressman Barrow. And he's similarly, roughly the same number in. He's up by 4 percentage points and 58% counted. So
what just strikes me again is the degree to which it looks like the South may save the Republicans, minimize the worst case scenarios in the House. People like me who thought they were going to lose 40, they may not lose quite as many. And in the Senate, of course, if they hold the Senate, it will be because of Virginia and Tennessee, it looks like, if Allen hangs on
and
in Virginia and Corker hangs on in Tennessee.
Right,
so the South and the border states.
Possibly the border state of Missouri, right. Yeah.
Right. The blowout belt, which is now extends from the Northeast, Connecticut, through Pennsylvania, Indiana, Ohio. It will be a bad night, it looks like, for Republicans in the Northeast and the Midwest. It'll be interesting. It means the Republican delegation in both the House and the Senate will be even more Southern than before. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it means the South is really the heart now.
And in furtherance of just what you're saying, we're looking at two further Democratic pickups. One is in the 24th District in New York, where we're predicting that the Democrats will pick that seat up. And I'm not sure that's been one of the ones that's been thought to be particularly embattled, but we would now project that one for the Democrats, adding yet one more. And in New Hampshire, where veteran Republican Congressman Charlie Bass has been in the fight of his life, we predict that he loses tonight. So that's a further pickup for the Democrats, adding to their already growing total. We're going to take a brief break now. We'll be back with more in a moment. Stay tuned.
Last year, Norfolk Southern and its shipping partners took hundreds of thousands of freight loads off the highway. In fact, they've invested millions to convert even more traffic in the coming years. So it's easy to see how the economy won't be the only thing that benefits. Norfolk Southern, the future of transportation.
I saw several girls raped.
Raped right in front of my eyes.
Then they burned them to death.
They killed my sons.
Then my husband.
And my brother.
The government just wants us to disappear.
The rest of the world isn't doing anything.
Isn't doing anything.
Anything.
Hey, it's Sleeping Beauty.
Didn't sleep a wink.
I know, we've been waiting for you. Have the chess set already?
He cheats.
Hello, Honest Abe.
Whatever.
We just haven't played for so long.
I know, I just got all this stress at work.
It's cool, it happens to a lot of people.
Really?
Absolutely. More than half of adults report experiencing some kind of insomnia at least a few nights a week.
We just want you back.
Thanks, guys.
When you can't sleep, you can't dream. That's why there's Roserum, the first and only prescription sleep aid that in clinical studies shows no potential for abuse or dependence. Take it when you need it, stop when you don't. Your doctor can explain why Roserum is so different. Don't take Roserum if you're taking Luvox, fluvoxamine, or have severe liver problems. Avoid taking it with alcohol. Don't drive or operate machinery until you know how you'll react to Roserum. Roserum may affect some hormones. Consult your doctor about how this may affect you, or if your insomnia doesn't improve. Take Roserum right before bed. Side effects may include drowsiness, fatigue, and dizziness.
Just talk to your doctor.
Today.
Okay, we're back now, and just getting a sense now of what we need to do to solidify this picture. I want you to take a look, folks, on your screen at that yellow stripe there, where you see the words balance of power. And as we watch that through the evening, that will tell you what the two parties still need. You see now the Democrats are within 5 seats of taking control of the House of Representatives and within 3 of getting control of the Senate. Their margin and room for error for the Democrats is much greater, much greater in the House, where there are many more targets of opportunity still out there for them than there are in the Senate, where it's down to a handful of seats. They could win them, there's no question about that. Republicans are going to need to hold, it's down to really the 3 races, Missouri, Tennessee, and Virginia. And we're watching with really now bated breath the outcome in all 3 of those. In Virginia, the count has reached north of 90% of the vote in, and George Allen continues to cling to a lead, but it is so narrow. In one tabulation we've just heard about from the Secretary of State's office, with something like 92% of it's in, it's down to 18,000 votes. That's not meaningless, but it's tight. So those are the ones we're looking at, and in the meantime, also, as we have all evening, we've been keeping an eye on ballot initiatives. So we've noted that a couple of marriage amendments, those confining it to a man and a woman, have passed in Tennessee and in Virginia. But there are others out there, and our chief Washington correspondent, Jim Angle, has been keeping an eye on them. Jim?
Well, that's right, Britt. And I should mention that the turnout for some of those ballot initiatives, especially in Missouri, could affect the outcomes of those races. We'll get to those in a moment. First, Fox News is projecting that 2 state ballot initiatives raising the minimum wage will indeed pass. First, we go to Ohio, which already has now, you've got a 44% margin on this. They would raise the state minimum wage to $6.85. The current federal minimum wage is $5.15. In Missouri, the margin is even greater at the moment. It's in the 70 percentile in favor of raising their minimum wage to $6.50. Here you see the results there, 72 to 28 to raise it to $6.50. Now, those are just two of several around the country for minimum wage, which some thought would help to bring out Democratic voters. But there are all sorts of ballot initiatives still out there that we want to tell you about. If you look at the number of initiatives across the country, we have a graphic here that will show you the number of states and the kinds of issues they are looking at. Stem cell research, of course, in Missouri, one of the keys for the outcome in that race between McCaskill and Senator Talent. There you have Senator Talent running ahead by about the same margin as the stem cell research motion, which amendment to the state constitution, which he opposes and Claire McCaskill favors. So that could be key. Gay marriage, you have 8 states in which that is an issue. We have already projected a win for gay marriage amendments banning gay marriage in Tennessee and Virginia. You also have a number of other issues around the country, in addition to the ones we've already mentioned on minimum wage. Here you have eminent domain, which is one of the biggest issues here. And Britt, this is a really interesting one. People were really incensed by the Supreme Court case, Kelo versus New London, Connecticut, and people are really angry about this and are determined to have their state governments ban eminent domain or restrict it so severely that it makes it almost impossible.
Okay, Jim Angle, thanks very much. We'll be keeping an eye on all of those things. In the meantime, a victory celebration for Senator Joe Lieberman, a man who in some quarters was given up for dead not many months ago when he lost his party's nomination. But he ran as an independent, and there he is.
And not only that, I deeply appreciate this election. Thank you, Jimmy Ammon. Thank you, Mike Jarjura. Thank you, John Picard, Kevin Cunningham, Mike Coffey, and Herb Grant, and the group from the Norwalk Common Council, and so many others from public life who are up here. Dear friends, thanks to the labor leaders who are with me. And the firefighters of Connecticut. Including their great national president who chose to be with us here tonight, Harold Schaitberger. Thank you. Dear friends, this year's campaign, to say the obvious, was a long journey on which you, my dear supporters, and I were tested like never before, but we never wavered in our beliefs or in our purpose, did we? And we never gave up, did we? And tonight, thanks to the voters of Connecticut, our journey has ended in victory and hope and the opportunity to make a difference for 6 more years.
And so Senator Joe Lieberman, basking in the glory of victory on a year in which he suffered what many thought would be a humiliating and possibly crushing defeat at the hands of Ned Lamont, who took the Democratic nomination away from him on a wave of anti-war in Iraq votes. Senator Lieberman returned to the Senate as an independent. All of us know Senator Lieberman, have known him for a long time. He's one of the members of the Senate who is particularly comfortable around reporters, has done a bit of writing in his own time, including a biography of the great Democratic state chairman from the 60s, John Bailey of Connecticut. So Joe Lieberman is a man that all of us know and many of us like. And it has been an interesting saga indeed. And it is fair to say he's thanking the unions and the firefighters and all kinds of state officials there, which shows you that a lot of the politics still is local.
Right.
But I think it's fair to say that if the Republicans hadn't backed him and the Republican Party in the White House had not cut off the air hose of the poor Republican in that race so that he had virtually no support, Joe Lieberman would not be coming back into the U.S. Senate.
I don't think there's any question, and I think that when Ned Lamont looks at this, he says if the Republican hadn't been in the race, I think the Republican got like 10% of the vote. That would have put Ned Lamont over the top. But so what you're looking at here is it's a kind of a difficult victory for the Republicans. yes, Joe Lieberman's going back, but they say he's going to caucus with the Democrats. And I don't think he's going to be very welcomed by Democrats. This is a guy who left behind the Democratic Party, did not accept the judgment of Democrats. And again, we come back to the war issue. This was his issue. He says he's above politics now. You're not above politics in Washington. So Joe Lieberman's a terrific guy. But in terms of the politics of this moment, I think that he has run in a way that benefited Republicans. It reminds me a little bit of the White House support of Lincoln Chafee in Rhode Island.
No, look,
well, wait a second.
On every issue except the war and other foreign policy issues, Joe Lieberman is a Democrat. He's a Democrat on the environment. He's a Democrat on
what's the big issue in this campaign?
Choice. Well, okay. Iraq was a big issue in the campaign, but he is not. He is going to caucus with the Democrats. If the Democrats shun him in any way, I think it's crazy, and I don't think they will, because I think they need all the support that they can get.
Well, if they only pick up the Senate by a vote or two, they're sure not going to shun Joe Lieberman.
Absolutely. And he he's been a Democrat all his life, but I think he's got the formula that both parties ought to be working on in Washington, which is to get problems solved on a bipartisan basis, on an independent basis, instead of this polarization stuff. I think the country is fed up with it, of constant warfare between the parties, fighting over
so you think
practically everything and not getting...
You think the countries are divided because the politicians are divided and not the other way around?
I think it's both, but the politicians do not contribute to solving the public's problems like entitlements, the energy problem, the environmental problem. You got to solve it on a bipartisan basis.
Hold it, Bill Kristol.
2 points apart from all this edifying sermon here from Ward about how everyone should be nice to everyone. Lieberman got a lot of advice from some Democrats. Don't mitigate or mute your support for the war in Iraq, and mute your support for victory, and move towards a kind of get out, a modified get out type message. He refused to do that. He rejected that advice. He stayed a strong supporter of the war, a critic of the tactics, but a strong advocate of the need to win in Iraq. That ended up benefiting him, and that I think is a lesson for a lot of.
It ended up benefiting because it kept Republicans at his side.
It kept Republicans
on
his side, and it even kept 30% of Democrats by his side. He did better by standing on his principles. Second thing, looking at that victory celebration, what I was reminded of was Lamont's victory celebration on primary night. And as one Democrat said to me today, the advance man for Ned Lamont, who let Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson stand behind him in the TV shot, who are not Connecticut residents and are not really in the mainstream of the Democratic Party, who let them be the framing for Ned Lamont on primary night. Lamont, that was the beginning of Lamont's loss of momentum, I think.
We're going to take a break here, but before we do, we're going to make a call. This is to prove that Republicans can still win in the state of Indiana. This is, of course, is the Mark Souder, a conservative Republican from out there. This was not, I should acknowledge, folks, a seat in which the Democrats thought they had a big chance of picking up, but it is a hold for the Republicans, and I'm sure that on this night they are very glad to have it indeed. Let's take a break. Be right back.
You Decide 2006 is brought to you by NASDAQ, Life, and the companies that move it forward.
Here's how it works. Get the nation's slimmest smartphone at a very slim price. theCUBE. With easy access to email and Windows Mobile. It's the stylish way to work. Exclusively from Verizon Wireless, America's most reliable wireless broadband network. Verizon Wireless, it's the network.
Oh my goodness, Fox News, You Decide 2006 coverage up in lights above Times Square. Let's hope that when we pop up, we don't frighten the horses. Got to take a look now at 3 races, which are the key races for the Senate. This is Talent McCaskill in Missouri, 29% of precincts in. Talent leading by some, 55,000 votes there, according to that. Not enough to make a call, and we don't expect to be able to make one for some time. In the Ford Corker race in Tennessee, that's 56,000, now 59,000 votes with nearly 70% in. It looks like Corker's got a very good chance of winning, still too close to call. And the closest devil of all, the one we're all watching with nearly bated breath, is George Allen with a 28,000 vote lead with 95% of those counted. There's some tallies that are a little forward of this that show it has tightened even further. And we're going to check in with somebody who may be able to tell us a little bit about why, even at this late stage of the game, we can't call the race. It probably has something to do with where the outstanding vote still yet to be counted is. Michael Barone, what do you know?
Well, Brett, I've been looking at the state of Virginia's election board website to try and figure out where the outstanding precincts are out. And what I see is a balance. Now, precincts are not necessarily the same size in Virginia. They seem to be much bigger than precincts in some other states. But on the one hand, you've got a set of precincts in the 3rd Congressional District. That's the black majority district that goes from Hampton Roads to Richmond. So you've got a certain amount of districts there, 3 in Newport News, 4 in Portsmouth. You've got several in 16 in Richmond. Those are likely to go heavily for Jim Webb. I think we can be pretty clear of that. On the other hand, you've got some rural Virginia ones. You've got 11 in the Northern Neck areas, a Republican area, 3 in Virginia Beach, which Allen has been carrying the rest of, 8 in Chesapeake, which is another suburb there in the Hampton Roads area that Allen's been carrying, 7 in Henrico County. That's mostly a Republican area, but there's some middle-class blacks there that vote heavily Democratic. 11 in Craig County on the West Virginia border. That's heavily Republican.
Henrico County, Michael, that's Richmond suburbs, right?
Richmond suburbs, yeah. So those areas tilt Allen. Maybe those 2 areas will counterbalance. And what else have we got? Well, in the D.C. metro area, Arlington, Alexandria, very heavily Democratic, they're all counted. Those precincts are in. Only 3 precincts in Fairfax, 2 in Fairfax County and 1 in Fairfax City. Those went for Webb, probably a few more votes. What we've got is 32 precincts from Loudoun County, one of the fastest growing counties in the country, around Leesburg, west of Fairfax County, 33 precincts in Prince William County. And Britt, the pre-existing vote there in the precincts that have been counted, the last I saw in Loudoun, it was 50-48 Webb. In Prince William, it was 49-49. So we don't know what those outstanding precincts in Loudoun and Prince William are going. But when I do a sort of sketch it in my head, add up here, and look at the current Allen margin, I get somewhere down to where I got in Florida in 2000 when I did an exercise like this, and I thought that the Republicans' lead was headed down towards 0. I think that this is a race that could end up with a recount, and that it may take, just to pick a figure out of the air, 36 days for us to know who's won this race.
Oh boy. Just what we need. 36 days to know who might be in charge of the Senate.
And if the majority of the Senate depends on it, you can count on it that it being seriously contested.
Well, I'm glad it's real close to us where we have a bureau nearby and we can cover it if it's in Virginia. All right, Michael, that's wonderful.
That's right, but we've got
wonderful information. Thank you.
95 counties and 39 independent cities, 134 jurisdictions. That'll need a lot of lawyers.
I'll say. Well, who covers this stuff for us? Carl Cameron covers this stuff for us, our chief political correspondent. He's been watching the Senate races, and this one in particular. Carl, what do you got, buddy?
Well, I want to make a point here, Britt, that I was not the one who raised the R word. Recount came out of Michael Barone's mouth before I did it. But I tell you, the statutes in Virginia are very clear on this. After the vote is certified, if the margin is within 1% of the total votes counted, then the candidate who loses can call for the recount, and there it goes. Yesterday, Charles Schumer, the chairman of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, made it very clear in his words, we are not going to be caught unawares. There are hundreds of Democratic lawyers, probably thousands really when you add the state and the federal lawyers all together, who are ready to be dispatched and parachute into any place they need to go. Virginia would be a little bit convenient since so many of them are going to be based in Washington. But the same thing could be said about Missouri. The same thing may be said about any of these close races, and Republicans have an equal complement of attorneys ready to get right in there. So It may be a late night. It may be a long November.
Have you heard anything out of that state, though, Carl, about irregularities, about any funny business that might be the basis of a challenge of the results along those lines?
Well, there have been a number of hiccups. There have been voter complaints in a variety of places. Charges from Republicans of voter fraud, which is to say that Democrats perhaps had tampered with registration or getting voters to the polls, and charges of intimidation by Democrats suggesting that Republicans were trying to suppress the Democratic voter turnout. We haven't had any major calamities. There have been allegations and threats of lawsuits in Missouri and a number of other states, but not yet in Virginia.
Hey.
But it's not midnight yet.
Okay, Carl, thanks very much. Going to take a break. Be right back.
You Decide 2006 is brought to you by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
No matter where people are going, we're all going in the same direction. The future, something we're thinking about today. A good example? This ultra-clean diesel fuel we're producing in the U.S. It contains 97% less sulfur, and we can all benefit from that. I'm Chris Erickson, and I work for ExxonMobil.
At Pacific Continental, we know that sometimes all it takes to get your business off the ground and back up where it belongs is just a little well-timed draft. Pacific Continental. That's the PCB way.
Considering a career change, have you dreamed of a career as a helicopter pilot? Silver State Helicopters is offering a free employment opportunity seminar Thursday, November 9th at 7 p.m. We'll show you how you can earn your commercial helicopter pilot's license in less than 18 months and start earning $50,000 to $100,000 annually. This professional training program allows you to become a commercial helicopter pilot with no upfront cost to you. The seminar is Thursday, November 9th at 7 p.m. Come see us at the Salem Municipal Airport. To reserve your seat, call 1-888-91-PILOT today.
If you're looking for a better way to find and hire smart local employees, then you need to know about us. We're PortlandJobFinder.com and brought to you in partnership with Comcast Spotlight.
Portland Job Finder's been excellent for our organization. We're a new company here in the Northwest and looking to fill key vital roles. The staff at Portland Job Finder has been excellent. They've been very professional and courteous in helping us establish our goals and meeting them.
PortlandJobFinder.com, the faster, more effective way to find local employees.
Hey, Elsa.
Hey, Zach.
What are you doing?
Just doing some sciencey stuff.
What is this stuff?
It's Power Boost. Gives you burst of speed for faster downloads.
So it makes our already fast stuff
even faster. Did you just eat that?
No.
Among the things being decided tonight, some of the governor's races. 36 are up for grabs in total, and 10 of those were open, 9 held by Republicans. And we can report to you now that one of those houses in Iowa has now been decided. A Democrat in that case had been stepping down. Fox News now projecting that a Democrat will reclaim the seat. Chet Culver prevailing, according to our polling, by over Jim Nussle by a healthy margin. Again, in Arkansas, another Democratic pickup. This one, we are projecting that Democrat Mike Beebe will prevail over Asa Hutchinson, the former Undersecretary at Homeland Security, replacing a Republican governor in that state, Mike Huckabee. And finally, in Colorado, Fox News projecting another Democratic pickup. Democrat Bill Ritter has prevailed over Republican Bob Bouprey. Republicans very much wanted that Colorado seat. Bouprey had been running strong in the polls initially, petered out at the end, and was basically 19 points behind as of yesterday. So the Democrats with 2 pickups there, Arkansas and Colorado. In total, that gives the Democrats at this point 6 pickups among the governorships, including in Maryland, in Massachusetts, Ohio, New York, Arkansas, and Colorado. 6 Democratic pickups, and that means, Britt, that if the Democrats don't lose another single seat tonight, or if they do lose 2 seats and no more, that they will have reclaimed, I should say, the majority of the nation's governorships for the first time since 1994. Britt.
Megan Kendall, thanks very much.
You bet.
We got a call we can make. This is no big surprise. Dennis Hastert has won re-election. He was not thought to be in any serious trouble. He, of course, is now the Speaker of the House, but if the present trend continues, he will no longer be the Speaker of the House. And there are all kinds of questions about what role he would play in the leadership of the Republicans as a minority, many people believing he wouldn't play much of a role at all. For more on the Senate and the situation there, Carl Cameron is in a position now to talk to the Senate Minority Leader, who is, of course, has high hopes tonight. He may be, before it's all over, the Senate Majority Leader. Carl?
Thanks, Britt. Speaking of legislators who aren't exactly sure what their role might be in the upcoming Senate, the senator from Nevada, Harry Reid, thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Well, I know what my role will be. I'm going to be the Democratic leader.
That's for sure, but we don't know if it's a minority or a majority.
Well, I've never predicted that we'd be in the majority. I mean, it's still possible, but I think it's going to be, we have 4 seats that still haven't been decided. We'd have to win most all those, and a couple of them are looking a little weak right now. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. If someone had told you 2 years ago that we would not have to worry about the 2 Nelsons in Nebraska and Florida, and Minnesota would not be on anyone's lip this election period, and of course North Dakota would be no problem, and Senator Byrd would be no problem. They're no problem. Nobody even talks about those. And to think that we're already at a +3 is remarkable. What we've done in 2 years, I'm very happy about that.
Reading between the lines in the politics of interpreting lowballing there, it sounds as though you're prepared to not make it to 6.
Well, I've never been prepared to make it to 6. I can do the job. I'm happy to do that. As the Democratic whip, I've been in the majority, I've been in the minority, I've been tied. I've done it all. And so whatever the people decide, I'm ready to do that. But one thing the people decide tonight, they're in the air, there's change of direction. And I think that the message to the American people should be, a one-party town doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. The right wing control the Republican Party. They would not even treat their own moderates with civility. And so I have already reached out to Mitch McConnell. I did it before the break. I said, Mitch, no matter how the election turns out, we've got to do better than what we've done.
We should explain that Mitch McConnell would be the Republican leader.
He's my counterpart. And we need to recognize that the only way to legislate is on a bipartisan basis. And the president certainly should have the message that we got to change direction in Iraq and here at home. When you have the Army Times, the Air Force Times, the Navy Times editorialize against Rumsfeld yesterday, the president has to get the message we've got to change direction in Iraq and here at home.
Let's talk about the practical effect of the Democrats potentially taking over the House, and if the Senate were to remain Republican. We now have even more divided government in that the 2 chambers would be controlled by opposite parties. What is the practical effect of that in terms of the president's perspective? Can Democrats actually change anything? He still has the power of the veto pen as well as the bully pulpit.
The president has to realize that these past 6 years have not been days of progress for our country. And the president, I believe, and I certainly am willing to work with him. We've had a few rocky roads in the past, but I'm willing to work with the president. I really want to do what he said he wanted to do when he came to town. I want to be a unifier, not a divider, and I hope that we can do that.
Let's talk a couple of things about what the new Senate might look like in terms of the issues that are likely to come up. First of all, investigations. If Democrats do have the majority, there's an expectation that you'll be required by Democrats across the country to look into what happened. Is that part of the investigative agenda?
What we need to do is realize that for 6 years we've had no legislative branch of government. Under the Constitution, we have 3 separate and equal branches of government for checks and balances. The number one thing we need is congressional oversight. This doesn't mean the flurry of subpoenas. It means basic congressional oversight to find out what's going on with the war in Iraq, with Halliburton. We'll find out what's going on in the various departments within this government. Regular congressional oversight, and from that, do some legislation that's good and bipartisan.
And we still don't know who will have the control to have that subpoena power regardless of party. Britt, we're going to send it back to you in New York. Thank you very much, Senator Reid, the Democratic leader.
And pass along my thanks as well to Senator Reid, and thanks to you, Carl. In the meantime, our colleague Steve Brown is in the town of Frontenac, Missouri, right near St. Louis at Talent headquarters, where we got a real cliffhanger. Steve, what can you tell us?
Well, Britt, this is turning out to be a classic Missouri election night, especially when you're talking about statewide races. In this case, the Republican Jim Talent, just like almost every election year, when you're running statewide in this state, the Republican districts or the Republican areas and Republican counties come in early, spot you a lead, and then the Democratic votes come in. According to the website for the Secretary of State's office, they report no votes from St. Louis or Kansas City counted yet. So what the Republicans need to do, in a sense, is get a huge margin outside of those two areas. For example, Talent has gotten a 10,000 vote margin from Greene County in southwest Missouri. Also in Newton County, also in southwest Missouri, a 7,100 vote margin. Cape Girardeau, a 9,000 vote margin. They're still counting the vote down there. Cumulatively, you have to start building up that margin, because late in election night, in comes the St. Louis votes, in comes the Kansas City votes, and in come a lot of those Democratic votes. It eats away at that lead built up over the course of the evening. They're taking a look at some key districts in suburban areas, and to be quite honest with you, I think the number's a little disappointing for the Republican camp. In St. Charles County, just outside of St. Louis, a thin margin, a relatively shallow margin for Talent there, where it was thought he needed to pick up a more substantial kind of margin. South of St. Louis County, in Jefferson County, Claire McCaskill has a pretty sizable lead with about 60% of the vote counted down there. That was a county in her failed gubernatorial bid 2 years ago. She only took by 18 votes. She's improved her state.
Energy to do what they love for life.
Pay no interest for 1 full year. The Jewelry Exchange guarantees the lowest price. 1 carat solitaire's $5.99, certified ISI quality $2,900. And for 2 weeks only, make no payments for 12 full months. The Jewelry Exchange with superstores nationwide.
Money should be fat. It should be big. At HSBCDirect.com, we've created a way to make money into bigger money. HSBCDirect.com offers an online savings account with a 5.05% annual percentage yield. That's 8 times the national average. Let your money grow big at HSBC. Brought to you by HSBC, the world's local bank. Member FDIC. Discover more at HSBCDirect.com.
It peels away layers of obfuscation, shreds lies, slices through White House fog, and you can try it for 4 weeks absolutely free. It's The Nation, America's hottest, most widely read journal of opinion. Nobody owns The Nation, not Time Warner, not Murdoch. So there's no corporate slant, no White House spin, just a straight dope. Call this number. Get 4 weeks of The Nation free. America's most incisive writers and editors, with that famous liberal media bias you can't find anywhere else. 4 weeks of The Nation free. Then we'll bill you just $17.95 for 24 weeks. If you're not delighted, write no thanks on the bill. Call 800-365-0939 or go to getthenation.com. No corporate slant, no White House spin, just the straight dope from The Nation.
Bring the sparkle of the holidays home this month at the Northwest Rugs Holiday Sale. Join us as we ring in the holidays with huge discounts on our entire collection of rugs, fine furniture, and unique accessories. At Northwest Rugs, find the perfect gift this year or accessorize for the holidays. For a limited time only, Northwest Rugs' full display of designer rugs, furniture, and accessories will be on sale. Don't miss out on huge savings at the Northwest Rugs Holiday Sale. Season's greetings and savings galore. Visit Northwest Rugs, the West Coast leader in rugs.
Horseradish. Is that for horses? Banana. 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 Here comes the rain. We need a hat. And why do we need a hat? To say that. That's right.
When you talk with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
Comcast, focused on community.